Hello and welcome to the advising webinar for new fall 2019 students in architectural engineering. Today, what we will be talking about are these topics. I'll introduce myself, talk a little bit about the timeline of what will be happening this summer as far as academic advising and registering for classes. Then the vast majority of time I will spend talking about registration because that's what most incoming students are really concerned with. So we'll talk a little bit about the architectural engineering curriculum. Then we'll talk about the classes that you'll be taking this fall. We'll talk a little bit about math placement, AV, IB, and transfer credit. I will briefly touch on how to stay on track for graduation, and then a little bit about how the registration process will work later this summer. And finally, I'll talk a little bit about academic advising and how to get in touch with me if you have questions. So, firstly, I will introduce myself. My name is Erin Jarek. I am the academic advisor for all architectural engineering students, and you'll see that abbreviated as AREN or often just referred to as Erin. My contact information is there. Architectural engineering is part of the Department of Civil, Environmental, and Architectural Engineering. And our department is in turn part of the College of Engineering and Applied Science, which is one of several colleges at the University of Colorado Boulder. So let's talk about what will be happening throughout the summer. So right now, things that you should be doing if you have not already done them. So probably the most important thing at this particular moment would be to take the math readiness test. And ideally, you would want to take that by June 5th. Because after June 5th, the college is going to start working on placing everybody into a math class, and you will eventually be pre-registered into a math class based on the results of that test. And so for that to happen on schedule, we need to have your test results by June 5th. It is important for everyone to take the math readiness test, even if you plan to have AP credit for math, or even if you know that you have AP or transfer credit for math. It's important for us to get this information for every student. So please take that if you haven't yet. And you have been getting information from new student and family programs that should have information about how to access that test. If you have any questions or maybe accidentally deleted an email, you can contact me if you have questions. Also now, it's not quite as time sensitive, but still you want to be doing it soon if you haven't yet, is to complete the online experience. And again, you've gotten emails about this from new student and family programs. The online experience is essentially like our basic orientation for incoming students. So it gives you a lot of information about a wide variety of things. Everything that you need to know as an incoming student about C Boulder. It talks specifically about advising and registration, and you have to complete those two modules and then successfully complete a quiz at the end of each one to show that you have the online experience completed. And you need to complete that online experience before you will be allowed to register for your fall classes. So the sooner you get that done, the sooner you can choose your enrollment window, which would be the final step. So once you've completed the online experience, you will be able to choose your enrollment window. And your enrollment window is basically a week that you will be able to register for your fall courses. The first enrollment window starts on July 8th, and the final enrollment window starts on August 5th. So sometime in that range, you will have an enrollment window, and that's when you'll register for your fall courses. After you complete the online experience, it can take a little bit of time before, like, you can't immediately go into the student portal and choose your enrollment window, because it takes a little bit of time for our systems to recognize that you have that step completed. Typically, you will get an email telling you, hooray, you've completed the online experience, now you can choose your enrollment window. I have seen that several students, as of today, which is May 31st when I'm recording this video, I have several incoming students who have completed the online experience but have not yet chosen an enrollment window. So you may possibly, like, it may still be in process, or you may potentially have missed that step. But if you have completed the online experience and it's been a day or two, you should look for that email telling you to choose your enrollment window, or you can just log into the student portal. So the student portal is also referred to as MyCUinfo, mycuinfo.colorado.edu. And when you log into that portal, you want to click on a tab at the top that says Step 3, Register. And then over on the right-hand side, you should have the option to choose which enrollment window you want. It doesn't necessarily matter which enrollment window you choose. Some students think, oh, I need to get the first enrollment window to make sure that I have the best chance of getting into the classes that I need. But it doesn't really work that way. The vast majority of first-year courses are kind of apportioned. So if there's 20 open seats in the class, they will open 4 of those seats during each enrollment window. So everybody has the same chance of getting into the classes that they need, regardless of which enrollment window they choose. So you just want to choose an enrollment window based on when you're going to be available. So if, for example, you have a vacation coming up and you're going to be out of town for a while, you'll want to get this completed as soon as possible to make sure that you get an enrollment window that works with your schedule. So each enrollment window is limited to a certain number of students. So some of them will fill up. So again, to have the best choice of which enrollment window you would like, you want to complete that online experience and choose your enrollment window as soon as possible. So those are the things that you should be doing now. And then things that will be happening a little bit later. So approximately sometime during the week of June 17th, you will be pre-enrolled into some of your fall courses. So if you log into MyCUinfo, on June 25th, you might see that there's already courses on your fall schedule, and that can freak students out. I get a lot of questions saying, what are these courses on my schedule? I didn't enroll in anything, but I still have these courses. That's just something that we do in your first semester only, just to make the registration process a little bit easier. So that'll happen around the week of June 17th. And then in early July, usually around the first week of July, but it can vary a little bit, that's when we will receive any AP or IB scores for tests that you took this year. So if you took any AB or IB exams, that you might get credit for, you want to make sure that you have signed up with the College Board to have your scores sent to CU Boulder, because we need to receive those scores directly from the College Board, and we will receive and process that credit again sometime in early July. And then sometime in July or August will be your enrollment window. And during your enrollment window, that is when you will finalize your fall 2019 course schedule. And I'll talk more about how that works in a little bit. So that's kind of what's coming up as far as registering for classes. Okay, so let's start talking about some registration information. So first of all, just a little bit about the architectural engineering curriculum. So architectural engineering is a discipline of engineering that encompasses all aspects of buildings. So engineering a building, figuring out how to make it work, and then actually constructing the building. So it is a pretty kind of intersectional engineering discipline that includes elements of civil engineering, which is kind of like the structural part, like how to design the structure of the building and make it stand up and be safe. Mechanical engineering, so how do we heat that building? How do we cool it? How do we make sure that the air is safe to breathe? Control the air quality inside that building. Electrical engineering, so how do we supply power to that building? How do we light that building? So lighting design. And then how do we actually build the building? So that's the construction management part, which includes like project management, budgeting, scheduling, all of that stuff. So as an architectural engineering student, you will learn elements of all of those disciplines, and specifically how to apply those disciplines to buildings. And then in addition, architectural engineering, just like every other engineering discipline, includes basic math, science, and engineering. So you need your calculus, your physics, chemistry, some computer programming skills, etc. In addition, we teach you a little bit of architectural history, theory, and design. So to be clear, architectural engineering is not architecture, but it is important to know and understand a little bit about architecture, because architects and architectural engineers have to work very closely together. So that is something that's important for architectural engineers to understand. And then again, just like every other engineering discipline, you also take some classes in humanities, social science, and writing. So what you might kind of think of as like general education type subjects. So the architectural engineering curriculum includes a lot of stuff. It's a challenging and pretty jam-packed curriculum. So let's talk about what you would be taking this fall as an architectural engineering student. So here is kind of a typical fall course schedule. So most architectural engineering students take 5 classes in their first semester. That is typically Calculus 1 or some other math class. So everybody will take a math class in their first semester. And that will be based on your placement results, and if you have any like AP, IB, or transfer credit that's applicable to calculus. Then everybody will typically take a science class, and that will either be generally chemistry or physics. Whichever one you take in the fall, you'll take the other one in the spring. So you'll get both chemistry and physics out of the way in your first year. It doesn't matter so much which semester you take which course. Then everybody takes an Introduction to Architectural Engineering course. So this is a 1-credit course where you just learn a little bit about what is architectural engineering. They have a lot of guest speakers come in and talk about the different subdisciplines within architectural engineering. They have faculty come in to talk about the classes that they teach. They have people from industry come in to talk about their jobs. And it gives you a lot of just kind of basic information so that you know kind of what it is that you're getting into and make sure that it's the right fit for you. And then generally, everybody will take 2 of this list of courses. So in your freshman year, you will take a first-year engineering projects course. You'll take an engineering drawing course, which is essentially like computer drawing, and it's building information modeling software that you'll use. You'll take a computing course, and then you'll take either a humanities and social science elective or a writing course. And so generally you'll take 2 of those in the fall, the other 2 in the spring. It is not so critical which courses you take in the fall and which ones you take in the spring, because they're generally offered both semesters. Some of you may be asked to take something different than those courses that I just listed. If you have a special circumstance. So if you're in a residential academic program, which we will call a RAP, and I know that some of you are in, for example, the Global Engineering RAP. Generally, when you're in a RAP, they will say that you need to take a specific course for that RAP. And they might just say everybody has to take this class, or they might give you a list of a few classes and you can choose which one you want to take. Same thing with a living learning community, which is called an LLC. For example, many of you are in the engineering quad, which is an LLC. And typically when you're in an LLC, they will say that there's a particular course that you have to take for that. If you're in the engineering honors program, there will be a particular class that you need to take. Some of you will be enrolled in a class called engineering math. And specifically, if you are placed into pre-calculus, you will also be enrolled in engineering math. And I'll talk to you a little bit about what that course is and what it means if it is applicable to you. But that's an extra math class that you take in your first semester, and it counts as a technical elective. And it just provides some additional math experience in your first semester that will help you later on. If you are in ROTC, you'll have classes that you take for that. And then there may be other things. So for example, if you're in band or something like that, there may be classes that you have to take for that. If any of these apply to you, I will talk to you about how to adjust your course schedule. So going back to the previous slide, if you need to take a course for your RAP or for your LLC or for engineering honors, there's a possibility that it might already count for one of these things. So for example, the course that you have to take for your RAP might count as a humanities and social science elective. So it could potentially count for both things, or it might be something different. And so if, for example, you have to take a class for ROTC, you can't necessarily add that class on top of all of this, because this is already going to be a full course schedule. There won't be room necessarily to add something else. So we might have to make some adjustments as a result of that. And that is one of the things that I can help you with. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about pre-enrollment or pre-registration. They mean the same thing. So in your very first semester, we will pre-register you into some, but not all, of your fall courses. And that's basically just to make the registration process easier. So it's not a complete free-for-all that, you know, Monday morning at 8:30 on your enrollment window, you know, we've got 200 engineering students all like trying to get into the same like math classes, etc. So just to make it a little bit easier, we put you into some of the courses in advance, and then you just have to usually add 1 or 2 additional classes. So as an architectural engineering student, these are the courses that you will be pre-enrolled in. So we will put you into your math course based on placement. And again, in order for this to happen, you need to have completed that math readiness test, because otherwise we wouldn't know what class to put you into. You will all be pre-enrolled into AREN 1316, which is the 1-credit Intro to Architectural Engineering course that I talked about a little bit before. You will be pre-enrolled in AREN 1027, Engineering Drawing. And then if you're in a RAP or LLC, or if you need to take engineering math, you may or may not be pre-enrolled into those courses. So some RAPs pre-register students, so they will put you into the class. Other RAPs will say you need to take one of these courses and you just enroll in it on your own during your enrollment window. So you may or may not be enrolled in some of those extra courses if they are applicable to you. But at a minimum, everyone will typically be enrolled in the math class, AREN 1316 and AREN 1027. Okay, so then during your enrollment window, which again will be in July or August, you will need to typically add 1 or 2 classes to complete your fall schedule. So for a typical architectural engineering student, you will be pre-enrolled into 3 classes, and then you will need to add 2 more. And the classes that you need to add are a science class, which will either be chemistry or physics, and then you will choose one of those other courses that I listed earlier. So either an engineering, humanities and social science, or writing class. In addition, you will also have the option to change your pre-registered courses. So I get a lot of questions saying, I was pre-registered into a math class and I don't like the time of it. Am I stuck with it? And the answer is not necessarily. You can change your pre-registered courses. So for example, if you were pre-registered into Calculus 1 and you end up having AP credit for Calculus 1 and you want to drop Calculus 1 and enroll in Calculus 2, you can do that. If a class is offered at several times and you don't like the time that you were assigned, you can just change to a different section at a different time that you like better. Or you can potentially like just drop a class and add a different one. So if you were pre-enrolled in engineering drawing and you decide that you would rather take your writing class in the fall, you could drop that class and add a different one in place of that. So your pre-registered courses are not set in stone. You do have the option to change them. However, you do want to be careful about changing your pre-registered courses. So for example, if you drop your math class because you want to change the time, and you're not able to get into that other class that you want, and then you say, okay, well, I'll go back into the section that I was in before, you may or may not be able to do that, because remember that there's going to be 200 other engineering students registering during the same enrollment window. So if you drop one of your classes, that opens it up for another student to take that spot. So that doesn't mean that you shouldn't change your schedule or that you shouldn't drop any classes. You just want to be careful when you're doing it. And I will also be available to help you with that if you have any questions about how to do it. Okay, so that's a lot of information and it can sound like a little bit intimidating and confusing, but it's really, for most students, pretty simple. So in June, you'll be pre-registered into 3 classes, and then during your enrollment window, you just need to add a science class, add 1 additional class, and then make any adjustments to your pre-registered courses. For most students, if everything works out, your fall registration will only take you, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. So it's not that stressful of a thing that you need to be nervous about it. You just want to make sure that you are prepared, and I will help you be prepared so that everything hopefully goes smoothly. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about math placement because that's a subject that a lot of students may be concerned about, and I get a lot of questions about. So you will have an initial math placement, which is based on the math readiness test. In addition, they take into account information from your high school transcript and any entrance exams that you took, such as the ACT or SAT. They use all of that information to make a placement for you. That placement is only up to Calculus 1. So basically, the math placement is just to decide, are you ready to be in calculus or not? There's no placing into Calculus 2, Calculus 3, etc. It's just up to Calc 1. When we pre-register you into classes, so remember that happens around the week of June 17th, your pre-registration is only based on that placement. We are not taking into account any AP credit, transfer credit, community college credit that you have, because we don't have that information yet. We are just doing the placement based on the math readiness test and your other information, and then you can adjust your math class later. So, for example, we are registering you into your math class the week of June 17th. We don't get your AP scores until 2 or 3 weeks later in July. So then if you end up later having AP credit, then you can change your math class during your enrollment window. If you place lower than you hoped, so if, for example, you placed into pre-calculus and you really want to be in Calculus 1, there's no way to change your math placement during the summer. Once the math placement is made, it's pretty much final, but you will have an opportunity to take another math placement test later. So after you are on campus in August, after you move in, but before classes start, we will have another placement test on site here at CU Boulder that you can take. So if you place into pre-calculus and you want to try to move up into Calculus 1, you can take that on-site test. And maybe in the meantime, you will have time this summer to, go back and review some topics and try to improve your score. In reference to math placement, a really important thing to stress is that we want you to be successful at CU Boulder. So when we place you into a math class, we are putting you in the class that we think you have a really good chance of being successful in. Because starting off in the right math class for you is a big part of being successful in your first semester and beyond at CU Boulder. So if you start off in a math class that is too advanced for you, chances are you're not going to do well, and then it kind of starts everything off on the wrong foot, and it can be challenging to kind of bounce back from that. So I would much rather see you start in pre-calculus if that is the right course for you to be in, and then have that set you up to be successful going forward. Keep in mind that many engineering students start in pre-calculus. You know, if you place into pre-calculus, don't feel like, oh, I'm the only one. Everybody's going to be so much more advanced than me. Lots of engineering students start in pre-calculus, and that's fine. However, I do want to point out one thing. As I said earlier, the architectural engineering curriculum is really jam-packed. There are so many things for us to teach you, and to try to fit all of that into 4 years is actually pretty tough. And in order to stay on track for 4-year graduation, it's really important that you are taking Calculus 3 in fall of your sophomore year. So for example, if you took pre-calculus in fall 2019 and then took Calculus 1 in spring of 2020, and then came back in the fall of 2020 and you were only in Calculus 2, that is going to prevent you from taking a lot of our other sophomore classes that have math prereqs. And that could potentially put you on a path for 5-year graduation. If you're not concerned about your graduation date and you're okay with taking 5 years to graduate, then that's great. You have, more time, less stress, but that's not an option for everyone. So I do want to point out, especially for any parents who are watching, because this is often a concern for them, if it is important for you to graduate in 4 years, then you need to plan that if you're taking pre-calculus this fall, that you would take Calculus 1 in the spring, and then you need to take Calculus 2 in the summer, next summer. So then you can come back and take Calculus 3 in fall of 2020 and stay on track with the architectural engineering curriculum. That Calculus 2 course in summer 2020 could be taken here at CU Boulder, or it could be taken as a transfer course from another school. But you do want to think about if that is something that will be feasible for you to do. And if it's not, then you may want to think more seriously about trying to take that math placement test in August to be able to start in Calculus 1 this fall, okay? All right, and then kind of going the other direction, I know that there are usually a lot of questions from students who might already have calculus credit and want to know how that affects them. So you may already have, or you may end up with college credit as a result of taking an AP exam, an IB exam, concurrent enrollment courses that you took in high school. If you end up with college credit for math or for any other subjects, I will contact you to discuss the courses that you have credit for and how it could affect your fall course schedule. So for example, if you enrolled in chemistry and then you ended up with AP credit for chemistry, you might decide to drop that class and take physics instead. If you end up with AP credit for Calculus 1, you might decide to move up into Calculus 2. Again, you will be able to make those adjustments during your enrollment window. But sometimes we don't get that information until after your enrollment window has already passed. So one thing I would suggest is if you took a bunch of AP or IB exams this year in your senior year, you may want to not sign up for the first enrollment window, because again, that first enrollment window starts on July 8th, and we might not have your AP scores by then. So if you wait and you sign up for one of the later enrollment windows, that might be helpful to you, because then we would already have your scores and we'd already have your credit processed before your enrollment window starts. Otherwise, if you've already had your enrollment window and then we get your AP credit, you won't be able to go in and change your course schedule, but I can do that for you. So it still can be fixed regardless of when your enrollment window is. Okay, so today I mostly wanted to focus on just the classes that you're signing up for this fall, and not get into looking at the entire architectural engineering curriculum, because I could spend an hour just talking about that, and it's going to get a little bit confusing and overwhelming if we get too far into that right now. So I'm pretty much going to just focus on your fall classes today, but I do want to say a few things about staying on track for graduation, because it is possible to, you know, do some things even in your very first semester that will make it very hard for you to stay on track for graduation. And I don't want that to happen. So I want to point out a few things. The architectural engineering curriculum and every engineering degree at CU Boulder is 128 credits. If you want to graduate in 4 years, that means that you need to take an average of 16 credits every semester that will count towards your degree. So 16 credits times 8 semesters is 128 credits. And if you take, if you take fewer credits than you need to in one semester, that means you either need to take more credits in another semester, or you need to make up the difference by taking summer classes. And again, this is to stay on track for 4-year graduation. But that doesn't mean that you can just take any 16 credits that count towards your degree and you'll, I'll just take, all of these classes in one semester, and then I'm just going to pick whatever classes I want in the next semester. And as long as I take 16 credits, then I can graduate in 4 years. Because a lot of our courses have prerequisites, and so you have to take things in a particular order. If you delay a course, then that in turn pushes back everything that comes after that course, and that can also affect your graduation date. So you need to take an average of 16 credits that count towards your degree, plus you need to make sure that you're taking all of those prerequisite courses in the right semesters to avoid pushing everything back. I will provide you with a standard 4-year curriculum plan, and I'll show you an example of that. Hold on one second while I pull it up. So here is the Architectural Engineering Advising webpage. And so here, fall 2018 area and block diagram, students graduating in May 22 or later. That is your curriculum plan. So this is what we call our block diagram. And every row is a semester, starting at the bottom and working up. So semester 1, you'll typically be taking all of these classes. Semester 2, all of these classes, etc. You can see that, there's a lot. Some semesters are a little less than 16 credits, some are a little bit more, but it averages out. And so in general, you want to follow this plan. And if you follow this plan exactly, we guarantee that you can graduate in 4 years. If you deviate from this plan, that doesn't mean that you can't graduate in 4 years. Sometimes it might not make any difference. So for example, I told you, a lot of these first-year courses, you could take them in the fall or the spring and it doesn't matter. So that kind of change won't make a difference to your graduation date. There are other things that if you deviate from the standard curriculum, it will definitely affect your graduation date. And then there's a lot of gray area where if you change something, it may or may not affect your graduation date, because a lot of that depends on if changing something results in a time conflict later on, and that can be hard to predict. Okay. Go back. Okay, so I will provide you with that 4-year plan. And essentially my advice to you is to follow that plan unless you have a good reason to do otherwise. So I don't want to tell you like never deviate from the standard curriculum, because sometimes there might be a class that's only offered once, and you really want the opportunity to take that class, and that might be fine. But if there's no reason to deviate from the block diagram, then don't. And before you deviate from the block diagram, you want to talk to me about it, because I can let you know, yes, no, maybe, if this will affect your graduation date or not. Another thing that I'll do is I will share a spreadsheet for you, with you. And that spreadsheet is essentially the block diagram, but just put in an Excel spreadsheet. But it will give you the opportunity to move things around and figure out, make sure that you're looking at a long-term graduation plan instead of just, I'm only focused on the semester and not thinking about how that is going to affect everything that comes later. So I will share that with all of you via Google Drive, so that you will be able to log in and make changes to it throughout the next 4 years. And I will also be able to log in and see it and let you know if I have feedback. And I plan to do that sometime this summer, so you can look for an email about that coming up soon. Okay, so that's all I'm gonna say right now about staying on track for graduation. I will discuss that a lot more, obviously, like when you're on campus with each of you. Okay, so let's talk now a little bit about how registration works. So again, each of you will select an enrollment window, which will be in either July or August. Your enrollment window will be a Monday through a Thursday. And specifically, it opens at 8:30 a.m. Boulder time, which is Mountain Daylight Time, on Monday morning. So Monday at 8:30 will be the earliest that you can register for your classes. Ideally, you want to have your classes already picked out and in your shopping cart. So when you register for classes, it's kind of like an online shopping system. So you pick out classes, you put them in your shopping cart, and then you go to your shopping cart and you pick, yep, these are the ones that I want to enroll in, and then you enroll in those classes. So you can have your classes already picked out and in your shopping cart and ready to go before your enrollment window. So everything's already there. You don't have to spend time on Monday morning, like looking for classes, trying to figure out how the days and times work together. You can have all of that already done. So then right at 8:30 on Monday morning, you can just hit the enroll button and try to be the first one to get into that class that you want. Remember, as I said before, that, you know, if there's 20 seats in a class, then they're going to open up 4 seats during every enrollment window. So there might be 4 seats, sometimes 2, sometimes only 1 seat in a particular section of a particular class. And there's 200 engineering students registering during each enrollment window. So there's a good chance that you're not going to get into your first choice of every class that you want. So it's very important that you have some backup courses picked out. So maybe like, yes, I would like to get into this writing class on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 12, but if that's full, then I can also take this class or this class or this class. And the more backups that you have, the easier it's going to be for you. Because if you only have your first choices and you go to enroll and 2 of those classes are full, then you have to spend a bunch of time going in and looking for new classes and wasting time. And in the meantime, other students are taking those spots. So the more backups you can have in advance, the more efficient you will be during registration. I will also be available during registration, especially on Monday morning, which is the busiest time. So if you run into trouble and you're having a hard time getting into classes that you need, I will be available to answer your questions and help. You'll be able to call me or email me, whatever you prefer. Okay, last thing, a little bit of advising information. So I want to point out that you are not required to have an advising appointment this summer. So for those of you who have done the online experience already, you'll notice that it tells you as one of the steps to prepare for registration, one of those steps is to make an advising appointment. And the reason that they put that step in there is because they want to make sure that you're talking to your advisor before you register for your fall classes, which is very important. However, I will be reaching out to you. So prior to your enrollment window, I will send you an email with lots of information about here's the classes that you're already enrolled in, here's the classes you need to add, and information that you need to register. So it's not necessary for you to make an appointment with me, although you are welcome to do so if you would like. In general, if you just want to know about fall registration, I would ask you to wait until I send you that email. And then if you have questions after you read the email, that would be a great time for us to talk. So you can email me your questions or you can schedule an appointment and we can do an appointment in person, by phone, or video conference, depending on what works best for you. If you do need to schedule an appointment with me, we use a system called MyCU Hub, which I will show you in just a minute. And then I also want to point out that, today I just talked about like the basics about your fall schedule, what you need to know right now to be able to get into your fall classes. But there's a lot of other information, and I don't want to overwhelm you by talking to you about all of that stuff right now. But talking about the full architectural engineering curriculum, all of the graduation requirements, policies, procedures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not going to get into that now, but I will have meetings in the first few weeks of the fall semester. And I will talk about a lot more of that information. After you're here, you've moved in, you've had a couple weeks to get settled, and then we'll deal with some of that stuff. So again, if you've got kind of more long-term questions, you may want to just hold off on those a little bit until after we have the group meetings, because I'll probably answer a lot of your questions in those meetings. That being said, I do not want to discourage you from reaching out to me anytime that you have a question or to schedule an appointment. Like if you have something that needs to be addressed now, by all means, feel free to ask me or to schedule an appointment. I am always available. I just wanted to let you know that is not required, and I will be reaching out to you with more information prior to your registration date. Okay? All right, so last thing, if you do want to meet with me, we use a website called MyCU Hub, so mycuhub.colorado.edu, and when you log into that system, you should see me as part of your student success team. So here's me. You may have more than one person. You may have 2 or 3 people listed here, but at a minimum, you'll see me, and then you can just click on my name, and that will take you to my calendar. On my calendar, I usually have drop-in hours, and those are times that I'm here and you can just come by and I just will meet with whoever's here, first come, first serve. In addition, you will see individual appointments that are usually half an hour, and that is where you can actually reserve a time and we will have that entire 30 minutes to meet one-on-one. And again, in the summer, you will be able to select whether you want that meeting to be in person in my office, if you want to meet by phone, or if you want to meet by video conference. Okay, that's it. So hopefully you found that helpful. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about today or about anything else, please feel free to reach out. You are more than welcome to email me. My email address is here. Or you are welcome to, again, schedule an appointment, come to my drop-in hours if you're around Boulder, or call on the phone.